Welcome into the latest edition of the Two Growls, One Roar podcast. Folks, we are going to fly through today's episode, one, because it's Friday night, almost 10 o'clock as I record this. I just recorded a live stream, so folks, if you want to go out and hear more about this, just go find the live stream. I was there on there for about 35, 40 minutes talking on the game. But for me and the podcast people that listen to me and don't watch on YouTube, I wanted to get you something out. I will start off this episode by saying, hey, to those that are listening, I am sorry about some of the audio quality from last week. I recorded on streaming software. I downloaded it. I reposted it. So it was kind of a mess, and I went live, and I never did an official episode. We'll be back on our normal schedule this week. Speaking of this week, we have the Panthers traveling over to Germany. They're already in Germany. I'm excited, man. The festivities look fantastic. You can see the excitement among the fans on Panthers social. Everyone posting things. We even see Tepper there. He's excited. The Panthers legends, Steve Smith, Luke Kuechly. We've got Panthers players talking about how much coffee they're having to drink to get accustomed to the time zone. But folks, let's get into it. This is a matchup of 2-7 football teams. We'll look at the records here in just a second, or at least I'll verbally walk you through where they sit, how they got here. We'll talk about some other stats. But from an international experience standpoint, we know Canales has talked about playing in Germany before. The Giants, last time overseas, was in London in 2022, and the Panthers was back in 2019. That was, I think, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if I recall. I think both teams are actually undefeated. But logistically speaking, it's a lot. We heard from Mike Jackson today talking about how he is having to prepare himself, taking naps. These guys got to get accustomed to it. You have to think. Kickoff is at 9:30 there, or 9:30 our time, which will feel like be 3:30 there. Get my times right. So Panthers just having to adjust their bodies to really feeling like they're playing football at 9:30 in the morning. And I'll give a hat tip to Dave Canales, who, as he's been here in Carolina, has done a fantastic job of getting this team prepared. We've heard about him talking through the logistics of, hey, we're going to be playing football at 1 o'clock on Saturdays. This was in the preseason, so they're managing training camp around that schedule. Or we're going to a late game. Let's adjust. And so I think he's very focused on the task at hand, and I just appreciate his attention to detail. But let's talk about it, folks. Outside of this just being some bad football teams, Panthers are coming off a win, which we'll take that. But let's talk about the New York Giants offense. You thought the Carolina Panthers offense was bad? You got to take a look at the Giants offense. They are last in the NFL in points scored at 15.4. It's not much better than Carolina, so we can't say anything. Good news for them, they're playing a terrible defense in the Carolina Panthers, but a defense that did okay last week against Derek Carr and the Saints. Some things fell their way, and they took advantage of it. Panthers are last in the NFL, 32.6 points allowed. Yards per game, they're 26 with 301. We are giving up 391 yards, almost 400 yards. A lot of that on the ground, which ranks 32nd in the NFL. Third down conversions, 36.2%. On offense for them, we are last, which is ranked 22nd. We're last in the NFL. Last at 48%. Almost 50% of third downs are converted against us. Red zone scoring, offense for them. Once they get in the red zone, odds of scoring a touchdown, a percentage that they do score a touchdown is last at 40%. Our defense allows one roughly 69% of the time, which ranks 27th. Talking about that Carolina offense, led by Bryce Young now, 16.3 points per game is 29th. New York Giants is middle of the pack, giving up 22.4 on defense, but they have a very stout defense, man. Getting to the quarterback, getting sacks. Of course, we know Brian Burns is there, but they look good. They do, and it's going to be a tough matchup. Panthers are putting up 277 yards per game, 30th in the NFL. They allow 334, which ranks 18th. Third down conversions for the Panthers, 32.38%, 29th in the league, while the New York Giants defense is 33.3%, 9th. Red zone scoring for us, we score a touchdown 63% of the time. They allow one 44% of the time, which is fifth in the NFL. So really good red zone defense. I talked about the schedules. Tough schedule for New York Giants. So they started out 0-2, lost to Minnesota, to Washington, knocked off Cleveland, lost to Dallas, beat Seattle, and then lost 4 in a row now, Cincinnati, Philly, Pitt, and Washington. All good teams. We know the Panthers lost to New Orleans, Chargers, beat the Raiders, felt like something was happening, then it crumbled. Lost to Cincinnati, Chicago, Atlanta, Washington, and Denver 5 in a row before beating the New Orleans Saints last week. We talk about battle of quarterbacks, something that the New York Giants have struggled with in Daniel Jones. We'll start with our guy, Bryce Young, who is the starter. 60% completion percentage, 694 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He's been sacked 10 times on the year. He's looked better. The last 2 games, he's looked better. We've seen improvement. So not something you can really box score watch. And we know the interception from last game was not on him. Daniel Jones, 63.8% completion percentage, 1,800 passing yards, 8 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, and he has been sacked 27 times. Chuba Hubbard, big week for him, got his contract extension. I'm excited for him. I like what Dan Morgan has done with this organization. 665 yards, 5 touchdowns on the year, does have 1 receiving touchdown as well. And then you have Miles Sanders. Big week for the Carolina Panthers to determine if Jonathan Brooks is going to make his debut. I hope he does. But there's a chance he could sit out. He gets an extra week plus the bye and then makes his debut against Kansas City. Either way, once Jonathan Brooks is up and running and assuming he is good as we think he is, Miles Sanders, his production, his snaps are going to go down. There's nowhere to send him right now because of the contract, so we're kind of stuck. On the Giants side, Tyrone Tracy Jr. found a pretty good gem in him, 442 yards, 2 touchdowns. Devin Singletary, 283 and 2 touchdowns. And Daniel Jones, although he's had his struggles, we're going to have to stop him. He has 239 yards and 1 touchdown on the year. He's mobile. The Panthers have struggled against quarterbacks that can move. Jaden Daniels, Marcus Mariota, people that can move around. Caleb Williams. So we know it's going to be a struggle for this defense. Receiving, they've got one. The Giants have got one in Malik Neighbors, 557 yards on the year, 55 receptions, 3 touchdowns. Darius Slayton, who is out, 469 yards, 32 receptions. And then Wan'Dale Robinson rounds out your top 3 with 343 yards, 2 touchdowns. Panthers have a rookie-ish led trio with a few other guys. So Xavier Legette, 244 yards on the year, which is second on the team, only 1 yard behind Jadavian Sanders. 4 touchdowns. This dude scores. He knows how to get in the end zone. Jadavian Sanders, 245 yards, leading the team. No touchdowns yet. 24 receptions. I think he's going to get in the end zone soon. And Jalen Coker, 222 yards, 14 receptions, 15.9 yards per reception. That's good. That is freaking fantastic. That's actually the best on the team. Yeah, and then David Moore. David Moore likely going to get more of the touches as well. He's still a decent receiver, so don't write him off. Defensively, they are led, the Giants, by Bobby Okereke. Hope I say that right. 64 total tackles, 2 sacks. Michael McFadden, 58, 2. Tyler Newman, 57. Sack machine for them is the Dexter Lawrence II with 9. Azeez Ojulari has 6. Brian Burns, 5. Jason Pinnock with 3. And then I talked about McFadden and Okereke. Xavier Woods is the leading tackler for the Panthers. Never good to have a safety as your leading tackler, but 61 total. Mike Jackson has 46. Josie Jewell, 46. Trevin Wallace, who's coming around, with 43, and then Ashawn Robinson. This team does not get sacks. You really have Ashawn Robinson with 2 and DJ Johnson with 0.5. I didn't pull up the full breakdown, but a few other. This team, when you compare what the Giants can do versus what we can do, it's not really the same. The kicking game has been a struggle for the Giants as they've kind of went through a rotation with Greg Joseph, Gano, former Panther, and Jude McAtney. But it sounds like Gano, I think from what I heard, should be available. You have Eddie Pinheiro, who's 10 of 11 on the year for the Carolina Panthers. All right, we talked about the injury report. Ike Ekwonu is out, which means Brady Christensen's your left tackle. Cade Mays is your center. Adam Thielen is out as well, but I think that was expected. And then Jamie Robinson is doubtful. Everyone else is questionable outside of Jaden Crumity, who is full participant, ready to go. So we should see him. The question is, will we see DJ Wonham and or Jonathan Brooks? I would love for these guys to make their debut, but it would make sense also if they sit another week plus the bye and then debut against Kansas City. For New York, Bryce Ford Wheaton is out and Darius Slayton, and they have 4 other guys that are questionable, but I am going to assume that those guys are going to play. Speaking of depth chart, so you got Xavier Legette and David Moore, likely your 2 receivers. I know Jalen Coker fans want him. He'll get his snaps, don't worry. We talked about Brady Christensen, Damian Lewis, Cade Mays, Robert Hunt, Taylor Moton, a mixture of Tommy Tremble, Ian Thomas, Jatavian Sanders, Bryce Young, and Chuba Hubbard. On defense, LeBron Ray, Shai Tuttle, Ashawn Robinson, Jadeveon Clowney, Trevin Wallace, Josie Jewell, Charles Harris, J.C. Horn, Mike Jackson, Xavier Woods, and Nick Scott. ESPN Matchup Predictor gives the Giants a 66.4 chance to win this game. 33% chance for the Panthers. Giants opened as 5-point favorites. They are now 6.5-point favorites. Over-under is 40.5 points, according to ESPN Bet. I like the Panthers in this game. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should be worried about the defense. If the Giants defense can play up to the standard that we think they can, and their offense figures it out against our defense, could be a long day for the Panthers. But I like them, and I don't pick them too often, so I am going to take the Panthers this week, and we'll go with Panthers 24, Giants 21. Close it out. Anyways, folks, again, you can go get more content on the live stream. Y'all have a good one.